Your life will never change until you change the way you see things. Your life will never change until you change the way that you see things. My name is Lional Loftin. I'm a motivational speaker, life coach. I come from a small town with big dreams. I was born in a poverty-stricken, drug-infested neighborhood. My father left ever since I could remember, so I was raised by a single mother who did everything she could to raise a man. But we all know a woman can't raise a man, she just can take care of him. And she had her own issues and concerns that she had to deal with. She had to secure a stable income. She was worried about my father, whether he going to pay his child support, so she could pay her bills. She had to juggle between, what you call like a booty call and dating, just because she didn't really want to, bring different guys around me. And so it left me in the arms of my grandmother. And I was raised by my grandmother's prayers. I found myself every chance that I got, running to the streets. And growing up fast, you miss out on so many elements in life, because when you're in the streets, there's no room for children, so you have to be grown. So you find yourself a lot of times being something that you're not, versus focusing on who you truly are. And that's where your success lies, is in the ideal of you being the best individual that God bless you to be. So at 10 years young, my mother got pregnant, and she was having my little brother, so she decided, to move across town with her boyfriend. And of course, I didn't want to leave my neighborhood. I wanted to stay. So at that moment, my mother made a decision. It was the ideal of I could have went with her, and she could continue to raise me, or she would allow me to live with my grandmother and the neighborhood raised me. And at the time, we didn't look at it like that, but, in actuality, that's just what it was. So, of course, we sat down, we made a deal. My mother told me that if I made good grades and I did good in school, that I could be anything in this world that I wanted to be. And it was truth. It was facts. But, at 10 years old, all I was thinking about is that I could be grown. She said, if you made good grades, you won't have no problems out of me. So being grown to me at that time was, getting drunk, doing drugs, sleeping with women, partying every chance I could get, And that's just what it was for me. So to be honest with you, I had this theory where I thought my big homie was my father, because ultimately, he seemed to be the only one that cared or spent enough time with me where he helped me get school clothes, he helped me make money, anything that I thought that was important as a teenager, even though I wasn't a teenager, he was there for me, just to see a male figure at my game, so that when I did good, he said, yo, my brother did great. And it meant a lot to me. And so I'm saying that with children, their role models are going to be whoever spends the most time with them. If you working and you're not spending time with your kids, someone's spending time with them, and that's who they're going to look up to. So whether it's the big homie, the drug dealer, the coach, whoever it is, but it's so important as parents that you take that opportunity and you spend that time with your children, so that ultimately you be their role model. However, so my routine was I would come home from school, I do all my homework. Once I got through with my homework, I eat my food. I tell my grandma I love her. She tell me be safe. She'll be sitting on the chair, one eye open, one eye closed, but she be worked all week, all day, tired. She'll be sitting on the chair, the news looking at her. She'll see me walking out the door. She'll tell me, baby, have fun, be safe. And she'll say a prayer for me, And I was out in the streets, while most kids were, playing video games, Sega Genesis and Super Nintendos, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Sonic the Hedgehog. I was out in the streets, man. I was watching drug deals get done. I was talking to drug fiends, having conversations with alcoholics. I seen it all. So in the process of it all, it just made me who I am today. At 10 years old, America had me conditioned, had me thinking that I was just a nigga out here trying to eat. You know, at 10 years old, America had me thinking that in order for me to be successful, I had to act like, I had to imitate, I had to talk and be just like a white person. You know, coming from my neighborhood, it was almost like we had this thing where we thought white people was the definition of success, because by the time, you watch TV, the things you saw on TV, and the people that actually had something in life, it appeared that they were white. So, that was just the mentality, that we had. At 10 years old, I hated cops, because now you talking about 1991, where we were at the break of the Rodney King incident. And so seeing that on TV, it created this fear, but also hatred for police, to see the way that they did Rodney King. Not to mention all the role models in the neighborhood, you would see them, and they was constantly ducking and dodging police. They didn't want no affiliation with police. So in the process of that, the only time police came to our neighborhoods when trouble arose. That's the only time you would see police. When something tragic happened, you see the police. This was this negative connotation towards the police. Not to mention, a lot of times when they did make arrests, they were arresting what in the community appeared to be this great guy. And they were taking this great guy out of the community from what it appeared to be. It wasn't more so what the guy was doing, because in our eyes, it was more like this guy was doing what he had to do. But then, he was being taken away by these police officers. So, in the average young black male eyes, there was really no opportunity to create that love for police. It's one of those things that where a nigga's past would kill a child's essence, but a man's future will dictate how he raises family. Despite your belief, America's great. God blessed America. You have immigrants that are dying every day, that is willing to die just to wake up in America. And then they come to America and understand how great America is, and they achieve their goals. So that just shows you proof of how great America is. I was talking to this lady the other day from Nicaragua, and in the process of us talking, she explained to me that about 10 to 15 years ago, there was a war going on in Nicaragua. Well, in the process of it, the government was coming in people's houses and taking their 10-year-old kids and taking them to go fight in a war. Now, I have a 10-year-old, and I can't imagine the government coming in my house, taking Carmelo, and him having to go and fight in a war. I can't imagine it. But so she said that her parents, in order to defeat those odds, they decided to flee their country and come to America. So she described to me that in the process of her and her brothers, 5, 8, 12 years old, and their parents leaving their country, they're walking down the streets and they just see dead bodies laying on the ground. They're having to walk over dead bodies to get out of their country just to come to America. And I can't imagine that. That's like one of the saddest things I've ever heard. But in the process of that, in the process of them taking that journey and them getting to America, now her family have successful businesses in America. They've came here and they have established their own business. Not to mention, she said that, her mother and father, they went back to Nicaragua. And I'm like, well, why would they go back? And she said because, they had their own dreams for their country. And there was things that they wanted to do in their country, because in this country, she said they were considered nothing. They wasn't even citizens. They just came here for an opportunity. you know. So she looks at me and she says, God blessed America. And God did. But I think a lot of us Americans, we're kind of like spoiled children, where we're so ungrateful for the opportunity that's presented in front of us. And we're so focused on what other people doing, what other people have, just like a spoiled kid. Oh, I want this, I want that. Versus being grateful for what you have and taking the opportunity to obtain more. So it's not the ideal that we sit here and we point fingers and we talk about how society is this, society is that. That ain't the case, and that's not going to change anything. People make the world go round. So it's so important that we as Americans, we stop taking accountability for our own actions. We start taking this ideal of America as the greatest nation on earth, and we start supporting that and so start supporting each other. My name is Lionel Loftin, and I could be reached at lionelloftin@gmail.com. If you guys don't remember nothing else that I tell you today, just remember this. My motto is, the excuse is you. That means that anything that you're going through in your life, you have to accept accountability for it. You can't be a victim. You can't blame anybody for your shortcomings, because God bless you just by waking up every day. That's a blessing. For you to open your eyes, you got 24 hours on this earth to make a difference. So if you spend that time complaining and you spend that time not taking the opportunity to be grateful for living, eventually one day you're going to be dead and there will be no opportunity. So remember, again, my name is Lionel Loftin. Peace.